And in the block Gemara, Purim Sameach, Afreilich Purim, show you Shabbos Kodesh. It says in the Megillah we just read, La'Yehudim Hoisa Oira V'Simcha V'Sasim V'Kar Oira Zu Torah. So the first thing you're supposed to do in Purim, before anything else, is to learn a little Torah, which we'll do tonight. We're actually going to learn two blot. So we'll learn a blot and we'll pause, and then we will learn the second blot. So today we are up to today's daf, Shabbos Erev Purim is daf Chav Daled. So we are up to the bottom of the page of Chav Gimel Amud Beis, where Rab Shimon ben Elazar said that a brand new keli where you didn't feast your eyes upon yet, we don't give you back the keli. But if you did, if you feel that you really have become familiar with the keli, we will give it back to you. We ask a question, there's no simon, why do you give it back? We're talking about a trustworthy person, someone who's a Talmud Chacham, who's trustworthy, and they never, ever lie, except in the following three instances where they lie. And this is what we're up to. If that person, integrity is beyond any shadow of doubt, we will return it to them, even if it has no simon, if they claim that they are familiar with it. So the Gemara says here at the bottom of the page, the Omar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmul, Bahani Tlas Mil, the following three things, Avidid Rabbanon de Mishani Malay. These three things, the Chacham have a habit of actually altering the truth, and for good reason, and they're permitted. It doesn't make them a liar. Number one is Masechta. If they're asked, did you ever learn this Gemara? And they don't want to be a show-off, so they have a right to say no. Next one is Purya. Now, Rashi and Tosfos have an explanation which is very hard to understand. Purya, according to Rashi, is they ask somebody, did you have marital relations last night? And Tosfos finds that a bit odd. I mean, that's not a conversation you would have. And Tosfos learns they ask you if you slept in this particular bed, because Purya is a bed, because they found there's some emissions in the morning. Again, these are not really questions that they ask. So the Mashah, and apropos to Purim, Mashah says, but Purya means Purim. If they ask somebody, did you drink enough on Purim that you totally forgot the difference between Or, Haman, and Baruch Mordechai, did you reach that stage? You have to, but you don't have to tell anybody that you did. You don't have to advertise it. That's what I mean by Purya. And the last one is a Shpiza. If you stayed in someone's house and the host and hostess were very kind to you, you don't have to go around telling everybody that the host and hostess was kind to you, because all you're doing is you're bringing them more people and it becomes very taxing on them. So you just say, yeah, they were all right, but don't sit there and praise them too much, even though the Gemara Bracha says the nicest thing to do is to praise your host and hostess. So we say it depends who those people are that you are addressing. If the people who will not take advantage of it, then it's a wonderful thing. If there are people that find out that there's a home they can get a free meal from and they'll take care of them for nothing, then do not advertise it to those people. Says the Gemara, my nafkamina, why do we need to know that these three things you're allowed to distort the truth? That if they say, these people, they never distort the truth other than three cases, then if they say that they recognize the object, you will give it back to them. Tosfos already says we're living in Mari Yavamas, you're allowed to lie also to maintain shalom bayis, or darkei shalom, to maintain the peace. Why doesn't Gemara include that? So Tosfos says these three examples are actually all ancillaries of darkei shalom, to maintain the peace. Says the Gemara further. So the Gemara concludes, we know that they do not distort the truth only in these three cases. We will return it to them. But the Mishanim, we know that they're generally not to be trusted. Then even they claim that they know it, we will not give it back to them. And talking about Marzutra, so talking about the honesty, so Marzutra, Gemara said Marzutra Chasida. Marzutra Chasida, interestingly, they give them the title of Chasida. It's not a common name that they use for Marzutra. In Givlei Kosa de Kashba Mushpisa, the host lost their silver cup. So it wasn't Marzutra himself who lost it, it was the host. And Chazil Bar Beirav and had no idea who took it. And Marzutra was a judge. So he saw this young student, the Moshe Yada, he washed his hands, and then and he wiped his hand in someone else's shirt, which showed that he has zero respect for someone else's property. Omar, Marzutra turned around and he said, he is the culprit. He doesn't respect someone else's possessions. Kov say they tied him down, and eventually he confessed. So again, we see from here, if there's any questions about someone's integrity, especially when it comes to money matters, we won't give them back anything that they say, oh, I recognize this familiar, even though I have no sim and it's mine. We won't trust them. Where it continues, Tanya will live Nebraisa. Meider Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Rav Shimon ben Elazar concedes that Kalim Chadoshim, brand new utensils, if Shesavasana Ayin, that if you're able to feast your eyes on it and you're able to become familiar, then Chayiv Hachas, then you have to announce them. If not, then you don't. Now, the fact that it says here Meider, so Tosis and a number of Rishonim, not everyone, believes that the Chachamim disagree with them. The Chachamim say you don't need Savasana Ayin, you don't need that they should, you satisfy your eye, but even Taviyas Ayin, even they only saw it a few times, if they tell you that we were able to see, we recognize and we are familiar with this, Tviyas Ayin is enough. Shimon Elazar says Tviyas Ayin is not enough, you have to have Savasana Ayin, you have to see it for a while. The Eilim Kadosh, what are examples of Kalim that we say that did not really satisfy, fill your eyes? You don't have to announce them. For example, Badei Machtin, you have a bad, and we'll see a bad means like a branch or a twig, and you're hanging on this branch a number of needles, the tinnitus, or you have like these golden forks that's used for weaving. Again, because it was so commonplace that this is not a simple. They all look the same. Or if you have a string of these of axes, they all look the same. All of them. You cannot say you're familiar, you recognize them because it's very difficult to savasana ayin and to be able to distinguish between one and the next. So the Gemara says, when you say that you don't have to give it back, you found them individually. You found one twig or one branch, and on there you had what do you call it? One string of whatever it was hanging there. But if he found two because the number itself, the fact that there was two, that already is a siman. And we learned before that we learned yesterday that minyan is a siman. A number is also weight, measure, and a number is a siman as well. My bades, and my digresses for a minute. What does badi mean? Badi means branches. My call it badi, so why is it called bad? Bad usually means on its own. Anything which is suspended on something else, that thing that is suspended on is called a bad. Okay, now we learned over there regarding aravas. If you have only one leaf left, all the leaves fell out, but you have one leaf left, the vad achara, one branch and one twig. So we see the word bad is also referring to that. Now the Gemara continues. Shimon Elazar, we're going to say a din in Shimon Elazar, and then we're going to try to understand how far Rav Shimon Elazar takes it, and do the rabbis argue, and this will take us all the way to the Mishnah on the other side, on the bottom of the page. So first, the Chayin of Shimon Elazar, remember, if even if something has a siman, if the owner abandoned hope of ever recovering it, you can keep it as long as you picked it up after he abandoned hope. And even if it has no siman, only after he abandoned hope, because if he didn't abandon hope, then it's a yesh shalom medas lo have a yesh. He wasn't aware of it, even though had he been aware, he would have abandoned hope. It would have been meyayish. It's not good enough. So he says, if you rescue something from the jaws of a lion, then surely the owner abandoned hope. You can keep it. From a bear, and then from a leopard, and a bardas, from a polecat. Let's say the plunder from the sea. I mean, the sea, basically flooded the place and took a number of items with it back out into the ocean. Or Mishlisa Shanaro from the river breached its banks, and again it swept a number of things into the river. All these things, the owner definitely gave up hope. And it makes a lot of noise, and people are aware that it happened, so it's Yesh Medas. Now he says, okay, that's the first part of the Brisa. Now the second part of the Brisa, we're going to focus on this. You found it on a highway. You found an item on a highway. It was a very public space, or a platya, or in a big market square, in a big square. Again, with a multitude of people there. Gedela, a large one. Uvechol makam, and in every single place, anywhere where there's a multitude of people, you can keep whatever you find. And why is that? Even if it has a siman, regardless. Definitely the owners would abandon hope. There's so many people there, he has no hope that he'll ever recover it. So the Gemara, now we're going to query what exactly Shimon Elazar was saying. Remember, some areas which the majority of the population are goyim, and that some area of the majority of the population are Yidden. And we have a mitzvah called Hashava Saveda. You find an object with a simon, you have to return it. So Boilu, we want to know, when does Rav Shimon Loza say that if you find it in a public space, you can keep it? Is it only in a place where they're non-Jews because they won't bother giving it back? Or even a place where the majority of people are Jewish, but nevertheless, you don't, he abandons hope and you can keep it. Iboilu, ki Rav Shimon Loza. Is he talking about Rav Kanani, the majority of people are non-Jews? Abel B'Rav Yisrael, majority of people are Jewish, then Loi, he won't abandon hope. He hopes that somebody will find it, and then we'll try to find the true owner. Perhaps even the majority are Jews. He says you can give it up. He gives up hope, and you know why? So Taisus explains he gives up hope because he believes that many Jews are Ganovim, or many Jews will delude themselves that they found it in the street, they'll keep it. So even though the majority of people are Jews, he has no confidence that somebody's going to go search for the real owner, because there are bad people out there. There are good Jews and there are bad Jews. So we're not sure what he's saying, and then we'll go further. Let's say, for argument's sake, I feel Rabbi Yisrael Nami. Rabbi Shimon holds that even the majority of people are goyim, are Yidden, the owner will abandon hope you can keep it. Does anybody argue with him? Is it just a lone opinion, or everybody agrees? Pligi Rabbanale, I like Pligi. The rabbis argue with him or not? And if the rabbis do argue, in which case do they argue? Are they only arguing with Rabbi Yisrael, Vade Pligi? Surely the majority of Jews, the rabbis say, look, you have to, if you find an object there, you got to find the owner because it probably belongs to a Jew. But Rav Kanani pligi, what about the majority of goyim? They argue there as well that you have to find the owner, maybe he's Jewish, or in the majority of people are goyim, the rabbis that concede to Rav Shimon Loza, you can keep it. The imtim pligi, and even we say they are arguing, afilu b'Rav Kananim, even the majority of goyim, the rabbis say no, you have to find the owner, try to find the owner. Is halacha k'moisai or elok k'moisai, halacha Rav Shimon Loza or not? And even if you say the halacha is like him, imtim k'moisai, when? Dafke B'Rav Kananim, only with the majority of non-Jews, that's when you say you can keep it? Or I feel B'Rav Yisrael, even the majority of Jews? That's the question we will deal with now. Toshma coming here. Case number one. Each of these brises is anonymous. We're going to try to see. Remember, Shimon Loza, the first person that made an issue, highlighted the fact that there are a lot of people there. So if we find a brisa that discusses the idea that there are a lot of people there, that tells us that Shimon Loza is the author. And then let us see, is he limiting only to a place where the majority of people are non-Jews, or even a place where the majority of people are Jews? He's saying you can keep it. So he says, Toshma, he found money, b'bate kinesias, u'bate medrashas. Just 2 days ago, he found it in a shul or the Beis HaMedrash. Therefore, these are just paradigms, because all we're talking about is a place where there are a lot of people. You can keep it. Why? Because the owner definitely abandoned hope. Now, who highlighted the fact that there are a lot of people there? Man Shamat who's the one who said that you go after the majority? Rav Shimon Loza. And what's a Beis HaKnesset, Beis HaMedrash? Generally populated by Yidden. So we see that even if the majority of people are Yidden, Shimon Loza says you can keep it. So the Gemara says, who said we're talking about a case where you found money with a simon? The money was scattered, no simon. That's why you can keep it. Says the Gemara, if it's scattered, then my area, then why do you have to mention that it's a mokim sharabim and there are plenty of people there? I feel like even if there's nobody there, but you found money in the street, nobody around, but there's no simon, of course you can keep it. The money is wrapped up in some kind of a kerchief, so therefore there is a simon, and yet you can keep it. No, so it's therefore Shimon Loza, and talking about a shul. So Gemara says a very interesting thing. The word Beis HaKnesset does not mean a shul. Beis HaKnesset literally means a gathering place. It's a gathering place, and if the goyim gather together for an assembly, then that's also called a Beis HaKnesset in Hebrew. We sort of adopted the word Beis HaKnesset and use it only for a shul. But really, it's a generic term for any gathering place. So it's a goyish place, a goyish gathering place. In fact, the word synagogue means a gathering place. And what are we talking about here? It's a non-Jewish place. So all we know is Shimon Loza holds of the non-Jews that you can keep it. We still don't know what about a place that is populated by Jews. Says the Gemara, what about Bate Medrashas? Definitely a Beis HaMedrash is not a goyish place. So interesting what the Gemara says here. It seems that in those days they had the same problem we have today. That Bate Medrashas did done. Our Bate Medrash, the Yosrubu Kananim, we have goyish guards standing in front of the shul protecting, or the Beis HaMedrash. and therefore there were goyim also in the Beis Medrash. And the obvious question is, but the majority of people are still Yidden, so you have a couple of guards. But the thing is, as the Rajba and others explained, the majority of the Yidden who are sitting in the shul or in the Beis Medrash are studying. And they're focused on the studies. They don't look around to see if there's anything around. It's the guards who go in to inspect to make sure there's nothing wrong in the shul. So therefore, the owner of this money will think, who will probably find my money? One of the guards. So they're not going to bother giving it back to me. They found the money. Therefore, he abandons any hope. So even though there's a Yiddish place, it's the goyim that are probably going to find it. So it's like a goyish place. Says the Gemara, now that you've told us, it's possible to have a few goyim and they sort of form the majority because in this particular situation, they're the ones who are going to be finding it. Then, but says Nami, then why can't we also say the same thing regarding a basic Knesset shul? Leave it as a shul. You done the Yosef Kanaim goyim. I'm watching it from the outside. Toshma, coming here. Matzah Aveda, you found a lost object. Okay, next brisa. It says as follows. Clearly, it says this is actually a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah Taras. Im Roiv Yisrael Chayv Hachid. The majority of people living in this community are Yidden. You have to announce it. Im Roiv Kananim Ein Chayv Hachid. The majority are not Yidden. Man Shomat Le Damlin Osro. Who says that we look at the population? Rab Shimon Lazar. And it says clearly only if the majority of people are Goyim. But if the majority of people are Yidden, it says you have to announce. So that resolves our question. It seems to me clearly, but if majority of Goyim, but if majority Yidden, loy. Says you want to know why can't we say that this is the Rabbanon? You remember Rabbanon argue. Why can't we say this is the Rabbanon? And the Rabbanon therefore say that if it's a Jewish place, you have to announce it. But maybe Rab Shimon Lazar holds even the majority of Jews, you can keep it because he doesn't trust the Yidden. Says you want to, okay, the Gemara will say fine. But at least then we resolve part of our question. Whether Rabbanon argue, we'll say Rabbanon argue, and the Rabbanon hold that majority Yidden you have to announce, and that's an argument to Shimon Lazar. At least part of our question will be resolved. Hamani Rabbani, if you want to say Rabbanon, Tivshim B'nei, let's resolve from here. The Moed Rabbanon Shimon Lazar, the Rabbanon Kasita Shimon Lazar, the Reiv Kananim, the majority of Goyim that they say that you know what, majority of Goyim you can keep it. Only argue majority Yidden. So clearly, if the majority of Goyim, you can keep it. I mean, they agree with Shimon Lazar, at least the majority of Goyim. Says no, I don't want you to prove that either. Really, Shimon Lazar, and maybe for argument's sake, he holds that even the majority Yidden you can keep it. So how come in this case over here do we say majority Yidden you have to announce it? Even majority Yidden. You know what we're talking about? Betamun. You found that it was stored, it was hidden, so it was clearly placed over there, it didn't fall down. So the obvious question is, if it was placed over there, betamun, then why did you pick it up? The din is we'll see in tomorrow's Gemara that if you find something that looks like it was stashed away and a person put it away, you have no right to take it because the owner will come back to retrieve it. So if it was tamun, why are you taking it? What do we chayv lahachil? You shouldn't be taking it in the first place. What answers? Now we learned in the Mishnah further. Matzah kliba ashpam. You found a keli buried in a pile of in a tip. Michutz, if it was concealed, don't touch it. It was placed there. Megula, if it was open, exposed, then noitel machil. It has a simon, announce it because the person lost it. So we answer just like we're going to learn in tomorrow's Gemara. Kedamar Papa. We're talking about an ashpa she'ena asuya lefanas. When the person stashed it away, he thought it'll be there for a while and then it'll come back to retrieve it because it's talking about a tip that doesn't get cleaned too often. But what happened was, and maybe the owner's not aware, and now the owner of this tip decided to clear it. And if he finds a lost object, he might keep it, toss it away. So therefore, you should pick it up. But because it has a simon, a majority of Jews, you should announce it. So this is different because this wasn't lost. This was put away. If it was lost, if Shimon Lazar says, Eden going, I don't care, keep it. But because this was put away deliberately, the guy will come back. Okay, but now you have to take it because it's about to be cleared. Then you have to find the owner and announce it. That's one possible solution. Or anybody said another solution is La'olam Rabbanon. Let's go back to the answer we gave before. It's the Rabbanon. So you said if it's the Rabbanon, and Rabbanon argues in every respect, and you said Rabbanon, at least we see from here that when it comes to a Goyisha place, the Rabbanon concede that you can keep it. No. Nowhere does it say you can keep it. They just say you don't have to declare it. And what do you do? You don't have to declare it. What you do is you pick it up. It has a simon, but there's a possibility it belongs to a yid. On the other hand, the majority of people are going. So the yiniach, you bring it to your house and you just leave it there. V'yaisi Yisrael v'yavei siman shakal. Let the owner come find you and give you a simon. Otherwise, you leave it until Eliyahu Hanavi comes. Toshma coming here the next K. He was still trying to resolve Rosh Hashanah Chamim. Rav Asi said, what happens if Motzah Chovis Yayin Be'ir, you found a barrel of wine in the city, Sheruba Kanani. Now we have a thing called Yayin Nesech, it's the wine libation for Avodah Zarah, which is also from the Torah. And then you have a thing called Stam Yenim. Stam Yenim is wine, we don't know what happened. The rabbi said, they interdicted against Stam Yenim because we don't want you to get too intimate with Goyim because we don't want our sons to marry their daughters. Or you shouldn't marry their daughters. And also because of Chash of Yayin Nesech. So you found a barrel of wine in a city when the majority of the people are Goyim. So on the one hand, you can keep it. Again, we're talking about majority, so the numbers of people count. That's Rav Shimon Elazar. And he says in a goyish place, you can keep it. Sounds like by goyim, you can keep it. But vasur no. Since it's probably goyish wine, you can't have any hana from this wine. What happens? In Shulchan today, we're much more lenient when it comes to stam yenim and asur b'hana. Talk about another time. Boy Yisrael, for Yid came, the Nasan Basimin. A Yid comes along in this city and says, I'll give you a simon, mine. So on the one hand, muteres b'shtiyah, so it belongs to a Yid. You can drink it. On the other hand, who keeps it? L'moitza. The guy who found it keeps it. You don't have to give it back to the Yid because we're sure the Yid abandoned hope of ever recovering it because he would have thought that the majority of people are going, a guy will find it. Or even if a Yid finds it, he'll assume it came from a guy. So he abandons hope. So on the other hand, he gave a simon, so we know it's his. So therefore, you can keep the barrel and it's mutter b'hana, but you don't have to give it to him. Now, who's the one who raises the idea of a majority of people come out of Shemar Lazar? And we see clearly from there that's limited to goyim. Shema mino kikam Shemar Lazar, but if can't, only majority goyim. Aval b'rav Yisrael, with the majority of people yidin law, you cannot keep it. So what appears? Says the Gemara, no proof. La'elam emalach, I can tell you. Rav Shimon Lazar, I feel b'rav Yisrael nami kabar. Shimon Lazar holds the majority yidin, you can keep it. But Rav Asi is the one who's the author here. And Rav Asi decided to rule like Rav Shimon Lazar, only with the majority of goyim you can keep it. But the majority Eden, I don't agree with Rav Shimon Lazar. Rav Asi agrees in one respect to Paul Rebbe. There's a big argument in Poskim. If the halach is like Rav Shimon Lazar, which many Poskim hold, and others say, no, the halach is like Rav Asi, who sort of makes sort of a compromise. Only by goyish place, not a Yiddish place. Now, the Gemara sidetracks for a minute. The Gemara said, the Brisa said, if you found a barrel of wine in the city majority of goyim, you can keep it, but it's asur b'hana. Asur b'hana means you cannot have any benefit from it. Well, if you cannot have any benefit from it, what's the point of keeping it? Or what does it even mean you keep it? Says the Gemara, you tell me that because it's a goyish city, it's probably yayin, stam yayin, you cannot have any benefit. Muteres, what's the point of saying you can keep it, you can't do anything with it? You can keep the barrel, the wine, the contents you got to destroy, but the barrel you can keep. Now, this is very important. The Trumas Hadeshin, the obvious question is, the barrel had in it stam yenim. So how can you use the barrel? What do you mean? What do you do with the barrel? Isn't the barrel treif as well? So the Trumas Hadeshin says, from here we learn out that a barrel, a cask, that was used, for a sherry cask, whatever it is, he says, you're allowed to use you're allowed to use the barrel and for cold things and put it in there. And based on this, there's a whole argument whether you're allowed to use whiskey that was stored in a sherry cask. How far do we go? Some say that it's one thing, leave it there cold for a short time. But if you're leaving it there for a while, then we have a concept called kavish kimavushal, that is sitting there is like it's cooking. And even though the barrel is cold, it's cooking stam yenim. Others learn from this very Gemara here that that you're allowed to have whiskey sitting in a wine cask because it says clearly here you can keep it for the barrels. And I mean, the barrels have a purpose, have a use. Interesting argument, and the argument will continue forevermore. Says the Gemara further. There was a person. The Ashkech Abba Zuzah, he found 4 coins inside of a sadin that was wrapped up in a kerchief. The Shadu Benar Beran, and was lying there in a river called Beira. Also, came from Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei said, Zil Achris, please make an announcement. Now, what? Just 1 second, I'll close the door here. He said, you found in the river, Zil Achiz, go find out who the owner is and return it to the owner because there's a simon. He found 4 coins bound together in this kerchief. Also, Kamer came to Rabbi Yehuda, Zil Achiz, go announce it. So he asked him, Vazuta Shayami. This is what we learned, that the plunder of the sea or the river you can keep. So he said, Shiny no bear is different. Even the masculine has full of obstacles. There's rocks in the water. There are tree trunks that fell down. The owner won't be meyayish. So I said, why not? Well, Ruba Kananiminu, the majority of people living in that area are goyim. So even if they'll be found, probably found by a goy, or even be found by Idol, assume it came from a goy. So Shmamina can't be proved from here that ein halacha kerab Shimon Elazar for Rav Kananim. That means even Rav Kananim you have to announce. So now we answer this a new idea. Even if the majority of the people are, let's say, goyim around the area, but we don't look at the entire region. Look at where you found this object. If neighboring this object, the majority of the people that are in this particular limited area are Yidden, then we treat it as if the majority are Yidden. So he says here, shiny nor bear, and bear is different. The Yisrael sorchle, Eden dug it up. The Yisrael cuddle it, Eden dredge it, and they clean it out. Because the Eden are so involved in the river, all the probability is that a Yid lost it while he was working there, and another Yid found it while there. And that's why this is an exception, you have to announce it. Kivin Yisrael sorchle, what we say Yisrael came from a Yid. The Kivin Yisrael cuddle probably fell from a Yid. If a Yid, since they're the ones that clean it out, they're dredging it, they'll find it. Lo meyayish, won't abandon hope. Rabbi Yehuda have a shokol. Rabbi Yehuda was once walking behind Shmuel in the market of Eidaisa, the people who were making porridge or they were breaking up wheat into small like cereals. Amalei said to him, "What happens to matzah kananiki?" Okay, there's a lot of people here in this marketplace. I found a wallet here. What would it then be? Mao. Amalei said, "Hadei shaloi. You can keep it." What happens if boy Yisrael he came along, gave a simon? Mao, what's it in? So now I know the owner is chayiv lahasa. You got to return it. Now, this is a contradiction. If you tell me that I can keep it even though it has a simon, you're telling me that the owner abandoned hope. So just because he tells me the simon tomorrow, why do I have to give it to him? Once he abandoned hope, it's hefker. I can keep it. Tarti, how can you have these two rulings when they seem to contradict each other? Amalei said to him, Lifnim Mishura Sadin. This is an example of Lifnim Mishura Sadin. You got to go beyond the letter of the law. Kihad Abu Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, Ashri, he found Hani Chamra b'Midbar. He once found these donkeys out in the wilderness. V'hadrinu Lemarayu, he gave it back to its owner, Lebasa Treitze Yachi, after 12 months, Shas of the year. And according to Rashi, he found it 12 months after the guy lost it. And I guess we heard that the guy lost animals and somebody found it more than 12 months later. And according to Allah, you don't have to give it back. Now, why not? So Rashi in Bracha says a very interesting thing. He says, that a mace, people forget. Avelus is 12 months, because after 12 months, slowly but surely you forget. So, and Rashi says it the same thing it says in the Pasuk, I'm just like a lost Keli, and Rashi says that a Keli, after 12 months, every owner abandons hope. If they don't recover within 12 months, you abandon hope. In fact, the Chasam Sofer, today was Pasha Zocher, the Chasam Sofer rules that in a year, which is an Ibir, a leap year, like this year, because you have a mitzvah in the Torah to keep on remembering it, so we read it once a year. By reading it once a year, and we're yaitzev because we'll remember it for 12 months, and then as soon as it expires, we'll read it again. But he says in a leap year, you need to read it a second time. So when we read it in the Torah, either in the end of B'Shalach, or we read it in Parshas Kiseitze, when you get to Parshas Kiseitze, you have to have a mind to fulfill the mitzvah of Parshas Zocher a second time, because in a leap year, we're not going to read it till next year, which will be, or this year, we didn't read it for 13 months. We should have previously had in mind when we read B'Shalach or Kiseitze that this is Parshas Zocher. So that's what Rashi says. Taisa doesn't like it. Taisa is talking about, according to Allah, once you take care of an animal after 12 months, you can sell it and use the money. Machlek is Rashi Taisa there, whether you can sell it to yourself or somebody else. But you just, because taking care of an animal requires a lot of effort and time and money and everything else. So you just sell it and keep the money and put it away, just put it aside until the owner comes. And this person kept it longer than 12 months to take care of the animal. Why? Lifnim Mishur Sadin. And remember, I told you last time, the 3 levels of Shur Sadin. One is where everybody's responsible, but you have extenuating circumstances, like you're an older person, you don't pick up Avedas. That's the lowest level of Shur Sadin. So be like everybody else, you don't have to. The second one is when no one has to do it, like here, and yet you do it yourself. That's a much higher level. And the highest level is where it actually costs you money. And we'll talk about it when we get to it, and then we'll show you. Rav Avishakil in a Rob Avashok was from Faram Nachum Bashuk the Godoy in the marketplace where the people making shoes. Amrila Bashuk Rabban in the marketplace. Rabban Amalei Motzakan Anhim. If you found the wallet, what's it then? Amalei said had Eil Shaloi. He said that you can keep it. You can keep the wallet. Boy Yisrael, the Nos Masim Mao, if he comes against him, says, Amalei had Eil Shaloi, still keep it. No, the halach is you keep it. Standing and screaming, I never gave up hope. Nasa, no, we don't, doesn't matter. Either we don't believe him, or even if it's true, they didn't give up hope. The Torah said, because something like this is totally lost by everybody, there's no longer any ownership. You're no longer the owner, and the Torah made it hefker. So you can stand and scream from today till tomorrow, it doesn't matter. So it's just no different than a person screaming at base enough. He's watching his house, the center implode, and he's saying, "Oh, I don't want my house to implode." Doesn't help. Or a ship is capsizing and submerging the water. There was a vulture. The Shakal Bishop took meat in the market with Shadia B'Tznios and he threw it amongst the palm trees in the house of Bar Merion. Asli came for Abaya. Abaya said, "Zil shkoil enough. Keep it. You can keep it." Most people live around the Yidden. Doesn't that prove, Shama Mineh proves again that you're allowed to keep it, even the majority of Jews. Halacha Krab Shimon Lazar, I feel b'Rei Yisrael, majority of Jews. Says the Gemara, shiny diyai. A diyai is different. This is the vulture. The gezuta shel yamdami. It's lost to everybody. Who knows where it's going to end up, and therefore it's considered a yish. Rav said that if you have meat and you didn't watch it all the time, it is forbidden. But you saw where it came from. Rav says that you have to have a double seal on meat and wine, chelas, all these things. And so from the Gemara's question right here, but Rav said it's not good enough. How can you eat the meat you found it among your palm trees? And so he's answering that we saw where the vulture picked up the meat and we saw it drop off over here. From this Gemara, it seems the halach is like Rav. Many Rishonim hold the halach is not like Rav from other Gemaras, and we don't really need two seals, one seal. All you need to do is see that the vulture picked up the meat from that area where the Eden are. You don't have to see it physically taking from a particular house or something. And the Gemara continues. So we still haven't resolved. Once found a slaughtered goat. They said you can keep it. It's hefker. They said you can keep it like a shemelazar, but they also said you can eat it. You saw the animal was slaughtered, you can eat it. The time we learned Harisha of the Loigadiya, he lost his goats with Tanagoylev in his hand, and then he found them all slaughtered. Rabbi Yehuda says, also, how you know it's kosher? And he says that it's all right because you can tell. Goyim don't shech their animals, they shoot them and they kill them. And because you can see they were shech, it's like properly, therefore you can go ahead and eat it. This predates the Muslims. Amar Rebbe, needing Div Rabbi Yehuda kishemotzim ashba. I think Rabbi Yehuda is right. If you found it in a tip, it means somebody just threw it away. It's not kosher. But if you found them in the house, that means they are kosher. Since they allowed him to, now the Gemara is still trying to prove, if they said it's kosher, that means the majority of people are Jewish. So we see that Shimon as a whole, that even if the majority of people are Jewish, you can keep it. Ruby Yisrael, Ninu Shaman does not prove. Halacha of Shimon Lazar, I feel better Yisrael, even the majority of Yidden. Amar Rav, again, no proof. Reiv Kananim, talk about majority of Goyim, the Reiv Tavchi Yisrael, but majority of the butchers are Yidden. And therefore, you can rely on the fact that they're Yidden. Rabbi Ami found these birds that were Yeshachten, Beit Tveril, it's a poem, Beit Tveril, it's a poem. Also, Kamer Abasi, he said, others say it came for Rabbi Yechon. Others say Beit Midrash, Zil, Shkoil, and Nafshe, keep it. You can keep it, you can eat it because they were shechted. Nobody shechts birds. He once found a kiboira, a spool of thread, that they used to use, or a rope that they used to use to make nets. He would come to Rabbi Yechon, say, when Beis Medrash, said, Zil shkoil nafshi, go ahead and keep it. Again, keep it. So we see the Shimon Lazar holds that you can keep it if it's found in a place with a lot of people, you can keep it. Says the Mishnah, the first Mishnah said you can keep all of these things that have no simon. But the following things you have to find the owner and make announcements. How long you have to keep it for to find the owner, we're going to learn later in this parak. The following you have to announce. You found fruits you found fruits inside a vessel. Now the fruits won't have a siman, but the vessel will. So he says here, if you found fruits in the vessel, oy kli, or just the vessel itself, kamoishu, the way it is, or my because you found money inside a purse, like kis kamoishu, the purse on its own. All of these you have to announce. And when you give the purse back, you give the money back with it because it's inside the purse. Tziburi paytas, not scattered, but bundled together. Tziburi mais, or bundled together money. Shleisha matbei, 3 coins, one on top of the other. All of these things is clear that that there's a siman. You have to find the owners. The 3 coins we'll see in the Gemara later. If you found bundles, now we said bundles in the Rosh Hashanah, you don't have to announce. According to Rabbah, because even if there was a siman, it's trampled on. According to Rabbah, if there's a siman, no, you have to announce it. We're talking about there's no siman. But if there's no siman, so how come in the Rosh Hashanah you do have to make an announcement? You have to find the owner. Because Rava says he believes the space, the place where it is the siman. And therefore, that's in a Shuziyachid, you can say, according to Rashi, you announce the place, the guy will tell you what he lost. According to Taisus, you announce the item, and they have to tell you where they lost it. The Kichle Shabalabai, loaves of bread wherever they are, because it's a siman, even in a public place, even according to Rabbah, that simonim get trampled on, but not food. When we learned, nobody steps on food. The Gizit Tzemah, strips of wool, halakuchim beis that were bought from a craftsman. Those are very specialized. And therefore, the siman identifying, very easy to identify. Kada yain, kada shem, barrels of wine, barrels of oil, you have to announce. We raised it before. I was talking about the season when they would taste, after tasting, they would put some kind of a seal on it. And according to tastes, each one had their own seal. Gemara.